Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and Xbox just made it official. They just revealed their next showcase for later this month, though the games that they confirmed seems to have caught some people off guard. There are a few games here, though, that I am incredibly excited about, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that. Now, we also got an update from Ubisoft and their acquisition situation, and yeah, it's definitely a situation by this point. Ubisoft is about ready to go big or go home, depending on what happens over the next few months. And quite honestly, I'm not necessarily overly confident in their ability going forward. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Monster Hunter Wilds. We're only a little over a month away before the official release of Monster Hunter Wilds. It'll be available on February 28th, and I fully expect this one to be one of the biggest launches of 2025. But if you just absolutely cannot wait to play it yourself, well, I do have some good news and then some not so good news, depending on how you view things. What's happening here, though, is that Capcom just announced an open beta, and unlike the previous beta, this won't be exclusive to PlayStation. It'll be available on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation this time around, and it'll take place over 2 different periods of time. The first being February 6th to the 9th, and then 1 weekend later on February 13th to the 16th. And at first, this all sounds great and everything, but there is a caveat. For whatever reason, Capcom decided against letting you carry over your progress from the beta to the full release other than your created character. So I think that's going to limit its anticipation somewhat. Some people would just prefer to not have to do things twice. But at the end of the day here, I'm still glad that Capcom is doing a beta at all. You know, a major component of Wilds is going to be its multiplayer. And this really is the best way for them to stress their servers to better prepare for a smooth launch. So at the very least, I'm crossing my fingers for that. Now, another thing that's happening in February is Pokemon Day. That'll be on the 27th, and as expected, they do have plans for this year, and some of that's already leaked online. This is thanks to Niantic and some data miners that looked into Pokemon Go. You can see here posted up by Matt on Twitter. He said, "Thanks for confirming Pokemon Presents 2025 Niantic." That's really not the exciting part about this leak, though, because what fans are really zeroing on right now is that the code mentions Unova, which, if you don't know, that's the 5th generation being black and white. Now, if you know how the Pokemon franchise works and how they release their games, well, then you would know that a remake could be their next big release after Pokemon ZA. And the black and white generation theoretically would be up next. So, I mean, if you put 2 and 2 together, it really isn't all that far-fetched to think that they could announce a black and white remake next month at Pokemon Presents. Now, I'd still take this with a grain of salt until it's officially confirmed, but at the very least, this could be yet another reason to tune in to Pokemon Presents. Oh, and Nintendo, you know, they've been in the news a lot here recently. They might not necessarily be in the news for the reasons they want to be, just because the news isn't really coming from them specifically. But today they actually made an official announcement themselves. This is for Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, and just as rumored, they revealed its new trailer. It spans a little over 3 minutes long, and this revealed a myriad of new content, which includes a new character, new story-related content, a much-needed UI glow-up, and of course, a visual upgrade. I'll say this much about Nintendo. For the most part, when they do remasters, they actually do put real effort into these products. I can't really say the same thing for every company out there, but thankfully, Nintendo will continue that trend with Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, and I'm actually really excited about this game. Unfortunately, Xenoblade X was previously locked away in the treacherous dungeon that is the Wii U, so yeah, a lot of people unfortunately just missed out on it. I mean, even for me, I had the Wii U and I bought it, you know, a long time ago, but for whatever reason, I just never played it all that much. Maybe that's just because I never played the original Xenoblade on the Wii, so maybe I just didn't know any better at the time, but Nintendo has done a great job with Xenoblade on the Switch. You can get the entire series, and truthfully, now that I've played them, it's one of my favorite JRPG franchises of all time. They're unique, they're special, and I'm really excited to see why so many people love Xenoblade X just so much. It'll be available worldwide on March 20th, which actually could mean this might be one of the last major Switch releases before we get the eventual Switch successor, which right now is rumored for April. Okay, so let's go and get into the big news, starting off with Xbox. I know a lot of people are currently hyper-focused on Nintendo and when they're going to announce the Switch 2 Direct, hopefully at any moment, but it's actually Xbox who announced the first major showcase of 2025. This is for the rumored Xbox Developer Direct. I think we were all kind of expecting it, just considering they've had success with these events in past years, but it's now 100% confirmed. You can see their announcement here, which reads, "It's time to get a look at what's next. Developer Direct is back on Thursday, January 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time. Fans will get an inside look at a selection of highly anticipated games coming to Xbox Series X and S, PC, and Game Pass players this year. Presented by the game creators themselves, Developer Direct offers an in-depth look at upcoming titles, how they're being created, and who's creating them. We'll visit Compulsion Games in Montreal, Canada to learn more about South of Midnight, head to Montpellier, France to see Sandfall Interactive for a look at Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, stop by the legendary id Studios in Richardson, Texas to check in on Doom: The Dark Ages, and visit a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game." Now, it's that last tease there that's drawing a lot of excitement and speculation online. There will at least be one surprise game at this Xbox Developer Direct. I mean, just off the top of my head, there's a few different games that comes to mind. One, and I think this is the most likely, being the Oblivion remake. I mean, there's been a lot of leaks here recently that indicates it will release in 2025 and that it will use Unreal Engine 5. Now, assuming that last part is true, I would also assume that they're putting a lot of effort into this remake and that it's not just going to be a simple remaster, which to me would make this one of the most exciting games planned for 2025. I said this the other day, but a lot of people missed out on Oblivion. I mean, it was still popular for its time, but this is an old PS360 game. There's a lot of new gamers that plays on these modern consoles, and the thing is that Skyrim really catapulted the series into just a whole new level of popularity. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on this remake from new Elder Scrolls players, and you could honestly argue that Oblivion is just as good as Skyrim, if not even better. Personally, I'd put them on a very similar level in terms of quality, or in other words, I just list them both as all-time great RPGs because that's what they are. So I think this is going to be a huge game when it releases, and we could get an official reveal here in just the next few weeks. If not that, though, there are a few other games that comes to mind. Now, I think these are a little bit less likely, but, I mean, it could be Double Fine's next game. We haven't really seen anything from them since the release of Psychonauts 2, which released back in 2021. Fable is another game that I've seen a lot of people speculate about online, but honestly, I think they're just going to go ahead and wait until their summer showcase for another Fable reveal and possible release date. That'll give them a little bit more time to really narrow down its release date for the second half of 2025. And plus, I mean, if it was Fable, I think they would have probably highlighted it to get more people to tune in to this specific Direct. That would have probably been their lead game. There's also a chance that Forza Horizon 6 could be here. Historically, Xbox has released a new Forza Horizon every 2 to 3 years, so, it's about that time for a new iteration. Again, though, I think they'll probably just save that game for the summer showcase if it is indeed planned for this year, but this is all just me speculating. If you have any guesses as to what this mystery game could be, let me hear it in the comments below. The two confirmed games that I'm personally very excited about to see, though, is Doom: The Dark Ages and Expedition 33. I mean, I think we all kind of know that Doom: The Dark Ages is probably about a surefire quality game as we'll ever see in the game industry. id Software has been just absolutely lights out with this franchise with the last couple of games, and yeah, I think The Dark Ages has potential to be their best yet. I want to see all the new ideas that they're cooking up with this game, just kind of considering it's a little bit different in terms of its setting. And then there's Expedition 33, and I think this game has the potential to be one of the better new IP for 2025. I mean, this is a AAA caliber turn-based JRPG, and I think it just looks absolutely stunning. It actually reminds me a lot of Lost Odyssey, which is one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. And the thing about this studio is that they always seem to say the right things, and they just genuinely seem like they care about this genre. That means a lot to me. So I'm really rooting for this game and the team that's working on it. I hope it's as good as it looks. The fact that Xbox is putting it into the Direct, though, Maybe that's a good indication that they see something special in Expedition 33. So maybe that's a good sign. Either way, though, I mean, all of these games will launch directly into Game Pass day one, and if anything else here, this is just yet another shining example of what kind of lineup Xbox Game Pass has in store for fans in 2025. Again, the Xbox Developer Direct is set for January 23rd. Now, one more thing, because we got an update from Ubisoft on the Tencent acquisition situation. We got reports about this late last year, but reportedly, negotiations between the two have halted. You can see here posted up by Insider Gaming. They said those talks seems to have stopped as a significant term in negotiations revolved around the Guillemot brothers' insistence on retaining control, which is likely a term that Tencent probably wouldn't want to agree to. After all, the Guillemot brothers essentially put Ubisoft in this predicament in the first place. For now, the negotiations halt seems to be a strategy both sides are playing. Tencent will continue to snap up shares and raise its stake. At the same time, the Guillemot brothers will want to wait until late February to early March to reignite negotiations, as Ubisoft is set to release the highly anticipated Assassin's Creed Shadows on February 14th. So in other words, Ubisoft is banking on the idea that Shadows will be a big-time success and that this will give them an advantage in negotiations, whereas Tencent believes the opposite. Now, about that February 14th release, though, Ubisoft also delayed Shadows again today, this time to March 20th, and this theoretically should give it more breathing room. February is a very busy month after all, with games like Monster Hunter and Like a Dragon Pirate. But I don't know. Shadows has been just such a controversial game, and it'll be interesting to see if it can succeed despite the negativity that surrounds it. I mean, I guess we'll see, but I do agree with Tencent and their stance on this situation. I know I certainly wouldn't want to buy a failing company as big as Ubisoft and, not have control. I mean, there's a reason that Ubisoft is in the position that they're in, and that's because their leadership made bad decisions. So why exactly should Tencent acquire them for a lot of money and keep that same leadership in control? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, even if Shadows were to have success, one successful release doesn't exactly make up for all the other poor decisions that they made, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you like the idea of Xbox making a PC-esque console next generation that uses Xbox OS? And the vast majority of you all very much do seem to like this idea, with more than 80% of you voting for yes. So I think that's a very telling result. There's been a lot of questions about the future of Xbox in the console market, but a PC-esque console with a Windows slant to it could actually be the answer to their problems. Theoretically, they would suddenly have the most compatible console on the market that could play Xbox games, Game Pass games, PC games, including Steam. It would even have emulation, and to some extent, it would have PlayStation games as well, because they do release some of their games onto Steam. So that would put this next Xbox console in kind of a unique position, and I think a lot of people would actually be interested in a console like this. So I do agree with you all here, and I am in favor of this idea as well. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.